There is a moment in some people's lives when innocence ends, not by growing up, but by watching their family's kindness turn into suspicion. For Nida Abu Baker, that moment changed everything, setting her on a lifelong journey of turning grief into purpose and silence into voice. As the daughter of Shukri Abu Baker, co-founder of the Holy Land Foundation, Nida has carried her father's legacy of compassion into her own work, through poetry, art, and advocacy for those who have been silenced. In this conversation, we talk about family, faith, resistance, and the enduring hope that light will always prevail. Welcome to Siti Stories. I'm your host Leila, inviting you to pour a cup of tea and listen to the stories that remind us of who we are and where we come from. Nida, it's so nice to have you, and I
Thank you.
genuinely really appreciate you coming into my home and for us to have such a vulnerable and meaningful and important conversation today.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to finally be here after 2 years of planning. It's finally happening. But yeah, better late than never. So thank you for inviting me to your home.
So before we get into your story, I'd love to start with a Siti-inspired question, and I thought this one would be perfect for you since you're a poet and a writer. Is there a poem or ayah or book that comes to mind when you think of your Siti?
That's actually such a wonderful question. So Siti, my mom's mom, my Palestinian grandmother. So she is a poet and
Oh.
a storyteller. Um, and every time I go to Florida to visit her, she's just like bars on bars, like flowing poetry all the time. And there's not one poem that I can pinpoint because she says so many, and obviously I don't have them memorized. But just in general, any old Palestinian poem always hits me so deeply because it reminds me of my grandmother.
Mm.
But an ayah that
Mhm.
resonates with me is very verily with hardship comes ease. And in general, like with my whole family, we've gone through hardship after hardship after hardship from the very beginning. And my family is just like proof that there's always good that comes after anything we think is bad. As my dad would say, there is nothing really good or bad. It can be hard and easy, right? But something that's hard, it's not necessarily bad because there's always khair in something that you think is bad for you or like a bad time. There's always khair in it,
Always a lesson as well.
a
Sometimes we
lesson.
can't see it when we're going through it, but most of the times, once we're
Yeah.
out of it, we kind of can really look back and
Yeah,
reflect.
exactly. So when I think of my grandmothers, I think of everything that they've gone through and the light that they end up seeing after all of the darkness that they've endured. Yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course. No,
Yeah.
thank you for asking that. That's actually so beautiful and it made me think about it. It's not something that we think about often, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah.
I think that's an area that a lot of people can really resonate with. I think the reason why people were so excited to have you on is because, yes, you do a remarkable job sharing your father's story, but I think everyone also really wants to hear your story as well. Where did you grow up? Where do you live now? Kind of just give us that background situation of
Yeah.
everything in between.
So, born and raised in Dallas, Texas. I'm a Southern girl. I just love the Southern hospitality. It mirrors the Palestinian culture a lot, believe it or not.
Oh,
Fallahi culture, especially. Something I've always mentioned and growing up in Texas. Even the landscape and like the natural, like the plants and the trees that grow. Like we have a lot of sabr cactus
mm,
in some areas. And it's so perfect coming from Texas and then from Palestine,
yeah,
where we have the same sabr cactus tree, and it's one of my favorites.
yeah.
Okay, every time I see it, I just get like this burst of happiness in my heart because I feel so connected to that plant, especially for the name. And then the fact that no matter how many times you can try to take that tree out or the bush out, it's going to keep growing. And if you look in Palestine, all of like the villages that were mahjura, the abandoned villages, what's growing around them? The sabr, the
Mm.
cactus tree. And I think it's a good symbol of like my life. No matter how many times I was broken down, alhamdulillah, I keep growing. So I think that's why I'm really connected to that plant,
That's so
which
sweet.
makes me just like so happy to be a Texas girl and a Palestinian girl. Yeah, born and raised in Dallas, Texas, still living there. And then I have family in New Orleans. You know, there's a huge Fallahi
Yeah, wait,
population.
what band are you from?
Silwa. Yeah.
Yes, so you have a lot of family from New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm from Betanen, and
Oh my gosh.
yes, and half of my balad lives in
In New
New
Orleans. Yeah,
Orleans,
I
so
know some people. Oh
yeah.
my god.
My balad is split between New Jersey and New Orleans,
Yeah.
and then I just came here because I got
I think
married.
your cousins are friends with my cousins, by the way.
Probably.
Yeah,
Like, I know
because
they are always with Salawda. I know.
here's the thing about Palestinians. We will find each other no matter where we live, and then we end up knowing someone that knows someone who could also possibly be one of our cousins, end up being cousins.
Literally happened to me yesterday. I was at a Tatriz event. I meet these girls from Najib, and I'm not from Najib. And they're like, "Oh, you're from New Jersey? Do you know so and so?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my cousin." They're like, "No, that's my cousin." And like it's like her from their dad who's from Najib, and then my aunt who's from Betanen. We have mutual cousins. Like I was like, "How the heck are?" And
That's
we've never
so
known each other. Like that
funny.
was the first time we've ever met. So
It's crazy, Yanni. It's such a small world, and you know, Palestine is this tiny. The world is so big, but when it comes to finding other Palestinians, the world gets even smaller. If that
yeah,
makes sense. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like we have hundreds of thousands of us in diaspora, but somehow we're still all connected, you
oh,
know? And I think that's really beautiful.
yeah, I do
Mhm.
think so too. So, what are some of your joys? What are some of your hobbies?
It's funny because I don't have time for my hobbies
Yeah.
anymore, but growing up, I was always very artistic and creative. I would write poetry growing up. In class, I never used to pay attention. In fact, I would be writing these little raps and doodling. So I've always been taking up different form of art as a hobby. I love painting. I love drawing. And that's all thanks to my dad. I grew up watching him paint murals all over the HLF headquarters. He would even paint murals the local Islamic school. So I learned just by watching him. So yeah, like if I have any free time, I'll try to start on a new painting or finish a painting I started 2 years ago. But I love channeling all of my energy into canvas. It's like my therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put on some music and just let that creative energy flow into a painting, you know? But that's one hobby that I absolutely love and I hope I can find the time or make the time to get back into. Because really, like, you never realize how much you needed that art session until
Yeah.
you're actually in it.
Oh, I hope
Mhm.
you like free up some time to like give that to yourself. Like we
Yeah.
have to like be able to like fill our cup as well. And I'm sure you'll be able to create really powerful and beautiful art when you do
Inshallah. I
so.
miss it. I miss it so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. Like I said, you do an incredible job sharing your father's story, but I really wanted to kind of set the stage for a little bit about who you are as your own individual. I've listened to some other podcasts that you've done and I've heard you speak in person and I really wanted a way to kind of just humanize you and your story. It's sad that we even have to find ways to humanize ourselves, but I do think that we need that. So I didn't want to dismiss though your dad and the story that he has and so much of who we are is intertwined with who our parents are, with who our grandparents are. That's literally the center and the anchor of this podcast itself. With that being said, your story is so deeply intertwined with your father's. For those who may not know your father, Shukri Abu Baker, can you share a little bit about the Holy Land Foundation
Mhm.
and what inspired it to start and then what unfolded as well?
So, long story short, the Holy Land Foundation was the largest Muslim owned charity in the US. They had offices all over the world. They had an office in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where my father was born. They had an office in Jersey. They had offices in Palestine. The HLF was shut down in 2001 by the Bush administration. And then in '04, they raided our homes. And then in '07, there was a trial that ended in a mistrial. And in '08, that's when my father was convicted and sentenced to 65 years in prison.
Mhm.
And this is all for the humanitarian aid work that he did. And the crime was the fact that he helped Palestinian children and women. Now, what inspired my dad is actually the things that he went through. So, my father got married in like 1980 in Sanford, Florida. They moved then to Chicago over here. So, this is home away from home. And over here, my father's second born child, Muhammad, he was born here and they were trying to put in a feeding tube and then the nurse accidentally punctured. It was either his heart or lungs.
Oh my gosh. I'm so
So
sorry
my
for your loss.
yeah, so my brother passed away here and he's buried here.
So you have like a connection to
Literally,
Chicago.
there's like a
Yeah.
gravitational pull.
Wow.
And
It's powerful.
I try to make a visit to the cemetery when
Yeah.
I can. I was actually the first family member to be able to locate his grave because his grave is unmarked. Um, and I was the first one to visit in like 20 years.
Oh,
So it was like a big moment for me because I wasn't born yet, but I'm connecting with literally my own DNA is right here. I felt like I was doing this for Baba. After the book published, my father's poetry book, I sat there and I read a piece that my father dedicated to Muhammad and I read it out loud. It was a beautiful feeling. And it was basically like just connecting Baba and Muhammad after all these years. Like I was that center
yeah.
connection. But anyway, all that to say is so after my family, my mom and dad went through that at such a young age, they were like 22, 23. They moved to Indiana to start a new life. My mother couldn't bear living here anymore. In fact, she doesn't like visiting Chicago anymore because of that pain that she went through. So they went to Indiana right after, and Sanabil was born. Now, Sanabil, like, mind you, this is just a year after Muhammad passed. Sanabil was born with cystic fibrosis and thalassemia. Even though her life was really hard and it was tough on my parents, she still brought so much light after all the darkness that they went through. So Sanabil was born and Baba was watching the news. It was around the time of the Intifada. And he's like, my daughter is getting the best health care that anyone can get, but she's no different than the kids in Palestine, right?
This is the first Intifada, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is 1987. And he's like, she's no different than the kids in Palestine. So that gave him the idea and inspiration. And then he moved to California right after. And he and Ghassan al-Ashi co-founded the HLF together. So basically the inspiration behind the HLF was all of the pain that my father had endured, losing a child and then having a child right after with these chronic illnesses, yet she's still able to get good medical care. And he wanted to give other children a chance at life. So that's something a lot of people don't know because they know the HLF as this organization that was accused of sending money to these terrorist organizations. That was their charge for material support.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no evidence of that. All the evidence shows that it went straight to the hospitals that they built,
Yeah.
the backpacks that they bought.
Which nowadays, even giving aid to hospitals in Gaza would still give you this same bogus like
Yes,
charge.
because humanitarian aid has been criminalized.
Yes.
And humanitarian aid to Palestinians is a crime because, it doesn't fit their agenda, our oppressors' agenda. In order for their country to succeed, Palestinians need to be eliminated. And the only way that's going to happen is if they don't get the resources that they need. No hospitals, no schools, right? This is a war on children. They're killing our children. They're killing our mothers so that the next generation doesn't grow and rebuild Palestine. Any outside aid that's coming in, they're going to try to stop that. That's exactly why they are defunding UNRWA right now, right? It's the same exact thing and it's ongoing. It's been going on for decades and decades, but right now people see it as something new because we are actually able to see all this evidence from the palm of our hands.
Yeah.
Back then in the 90s and the 2000s, we didn't have smartphones. For example, when they raided our homes, right? That was in 2004. I didn't have a smartphone. I was 10 years old, but I probably would have had like a smartphone or an iPad right now today, right? If I was a 10-year-old with the FBI raiding my home, I would have pulled out something and started recording. They would not have gotten away with everything that they got away with back then. They assaulted my 19-year-old sister.
God.
She was left in bruises. They rounded us up into the living room. They threw my 3-year-old sister. They picked her up from the crib and threw her at us. My sister was not allowed to wear the hijab. It was a grown man 3 times her size who went into her bedroom. She's sleeping, okay? It's like 5 a.m. in the morning. He went into her bedroom, grabbed her out of bed. and would not let her wear her hijab. Would they have gotten away with it today? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they would have. I don't know, but at least we would
Yeah.
have documented it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of things would have went differently, but it happened, and there's a lot of things that we can learn and implement it into what's going on today.
Yeah, we never know what domino effect that had in your life. And so that actually brings me to my next question of your dad's imprisonment. How did that change your course for your life, your path of your life? You were 10 years old. It's like kind of that pivotal age of like child, but then like we're starting at that teenage age. Can you walk us through how
Oh my
that
gosh.
kind of, are you okay?
Yeah. It's just, oh my gosh, why am I getting emotional? It's something that I have been thinking about more lately. Like, when you're going through it all these years, you're living every single day, not thinking about what happened yesterday. You're going through
In
it.
fight or flight mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I learned how to adapt my life with these sudden changes, and I keep going because literally my life has been one sudden change after another throughout my like all of the 31 years of my life. Okay. It's been one sudden change after another, and I just learn how to adapt. I'm like, okay, whatever. This happened. I need to learn how to just go with it. So that's who I am right now.
Yeah.
You can put me under any situation and I'll figure it out. But so yeah, they raided my home at 10. And then Baba came back, and then in '07 and '08, it was 2 years of trial. I was 13, 14 years old. All my friends were living like normal teenage lives, boy drama, like the shop at the mall after school, let's meet on the weekends. I didn't have that. After school, we'd go straight to the mahkama. We'd go straight downtown to the court. So I literally felt like I was going to law school at the age of 13 and 14. By the time I turned 15, I thought I could be a lawyer.
You know, I did want to ask actually, like, did you ever consider taking that path?
At 15, I was almost set that I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But I think as I got older, once
Mm.
I graduated high school, it kind of like felt triggering. I know what's right and wrong when it comes to the law, and everything is going wrong.
You know that
Right. And
justice isn't always served.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like I want to be the one who will help grant justice, but it's like I already lived it, and I want a life away from that.
Mhm.
Even though right now at 31, it's like I can't imagine doing anything else other than fighting against this injustice. Whenever you're a teenager and then you graduate and go to college, you want to explore other things. You want to try to get away from the life that you have already been living. In high school, I kind of thought that I was going to be like a designer. I really wanted to go to art school in the Bay in San Francisco. That was my dream. That was like my biggest dream. I thought I was going to do it, but I remember the day of my interview for the school, something happened. I didn't end up going. I think it had something to do with my sister being in the hospital. But it was head. There was a reason why I didn't do that. Because a year later, my sister passed away. So it was meant for me to be at home in
Yeah.
Dallas. After I graduated high school, I had a gap year. I didn't go to school for that year. I wanted to work. Because also, like, a thing about me is I don't want to rely on other people for money. I started hustling at like the age of 17. I started my own photography business. I was doing like things here and there because I never wanted to burden my parents more than what they're already going through. Everyone always they were always there to help me, but it's like I just wanted to be independent,
Yeah.
that I wanted to go away for college. I really wanted that life away from not necessarily away from my family, but I wanted to know what life feels like when I'm doing things on my own.
Yeah.
And subhanAllah, there was a reason for that because now I'm a single mother and I'm doing things on my own. And things were so tough when I got my divorce and I started to do things on my own. And I wished that I learned how to do these things when
Back
I was
then.
younger.
Yeah.
This life will come at you hard and you never know what's going to happen and you don't know who's going to be there for you. So
Mhm.
you do need to learn that independence and how to be independent. So going back, I wanted to be many things. I went through different phases. I never knew what I wanted to be because of this huge curveball that like life threw at me. So I never really was able to become my own person and do the things that I wanted to truly do. I became an activist by force, not by choice. This is
Mm,
what God has chosen for me. This is what life threw at me, and I felt like it was my duty. One, because of everything that I learned at such a young age, it would be a shame for all that knowledge to go to waste,
yeah.
right? And two, because my father's in prison. He's serving a 65-year sentence in a horrible prison, and I'm not gonna go live my life selfishly. In my opinion, it's selfish to go live my life while he's sitting there. And I have the privilege and the voice and the energy to fight for him
Yeah.
and for other political prisoners.
I think God gives everyone their own skills and strengths that are different from each other. You have to harness that skill and that strength that God gave you and use it, or else you're doing yourself and everyone around you a disservice.
Yeah.
And your skill and your strength is being this powerhouse of an activist, mashallah, and being a writer and being a poet to really convict people. And you're so compelling. I think that's a skill, and I'm like amazed watching you do it. You kind of touched light upon other injustices that are happening. The injustices Palestinians face are not isolated. We see it through the Black community here in America, Muslim community post 9/11, and other marginalized, communities right now, the Latino community with ICE. So how do you see these struggles as interconnected? And then also, how do you see our freedom as interconnected as well?
It's cliche, but like we say all the time, and it's true, no one is free till we're all free, right? The same entity that is occupying us over there is occupying us over here. The extension of the occupation is over here, and it's all connected. Our law enforcement agents are trained by the IOF soldiers in Palestine, right? So what does that tell you? The US and Israel are working hand in hand, and their goal is to basically suppress these communities in order for their agenda to grow. And, all of our struggles are connected, especially like the prison struggle, right? Whenever I look at the prison my father is in, it's one of the most violent and deadliest prisons in the US. And mind you, half of the men in there are serving sentences that they don't deserve. Why? Because they're all minorities. My father, a Palestinian, is serving 65 years.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I always heard that number, and aside from the fact that he's wrongfully convicted,
Yeah.
aside from that number, they don't even give murderers that number.
No.
Where was the logic of the 65 years? I'm sorry, that's such a curveball
Yeah,
question.
no, it's fine. It's actually a great question. So the judge wanted to give them like 100 something years, but he said it. I remember him saying this was him being like kind and generous, giving them only 65 years.
That's wild.
Now, they were 5 men. 3 of them have already been released because they served their 20 to 25-year sentence.
Mhm.
So if Baba was even given a 20-year sentence, he would have been released. He would have been released 2 years ago because they let them out like 2 to 3 years early,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
parole. But yeah, like you made a good point. Even murderers don't get that much. They get 20 years. They get 25. Had my father committed a real crime, he would have been out. And that brings me to the point I was going to mention earlier. One time we were visiting my dad, and there was a young Black guy. He points at him. He's like, "Oh, you see that kid? He's a really good kid." But there was a white guy who was tried for the same exact thing who had already been released. This guy got a sentence 3 times higher than the white guy. That is solely because of his skin color. So what does this tell you? Our communities are being bullied. They're being picked on for the color of our skin, for the religion that we believe in, and God forbid our English accents are a little heavier than the other guys.
Genocide in Gaza, how that has impacted your father, if it has. Because we're seeing right now Palestinian political prisoners in the West Bank are being treated way worse than they even usually are by the Israeli occupation. And so I was wondering if the claws have extended to your father here.
Absolutely. It's impacted him in many ways. One, himself, like it's added so much heaviness to him because
Yeah.
when he sees the news, he knows that if he had been out, he would still be helping them. And he told me the other day, he's like, everything that's happening now is what the HLF tried to prevent, right? The forced starvation and the kids dying. That was everything the HLF had tried to prevent. Now, another way that this has impacted Baba is after October 7th, they have been nonstop bullying my dad. The prison has been raiding his cell. They've been taking his letters away, keeping them, okay? Like my dad received a letter that was sent to him 1 year ago, just recently. They kept that letter for 1 year. They have been cutting visits. They've been removing people from his visitation and email lists. And they took his Quran, his dictionary, so they know he writes. They took letters that Sanabil Allah yarhamha had sent to my dad.
Oh
Like
my
he would keep
gosh.
them with him. They took those letters. It's the only physical thing that he can touch that brings him close to Sanabil. Because mind you, he was imprisoned for the last 5 years of her life, probably hugging her a few times in those last 5 years. A couple of those years, the visits were behind glass. So he never really got to touch Sanabil. So even that, they're taking away from him. Why? It's because they know everything else they've done to try to break him never worked. The only thing that they can't take away is his faith.
Yeah.
And that is what they're trying to break right now by taking these little things. And they know that he gets his strength through these letters that we send. They know that he gets his strength through the support. They know that he copes through art and through writing, which is why they're taking away anything that will help with that. So it's strategic. And these are not like isolated incidents. This is all strategic to try to break him. Mind you, it's not even the prison who wants to do this. It's the higher ups. They are getting these orders.
It's also where are they getting their funding? Where
Yes.
it goes up so much higher. Your father is the definition of steadfastness. Your father is the definition of samud. And it's so connected to Palestine. Look at the
Yes.
Palestinians right now in Palestine. They are steadfast. People can't believe that they have not been broken in these last 2 years.
Yes.
And so I'm not shocked. But it would be really interesting for other people who maybe are not Palestinian or not Arab or not Muslim, my neighbor, if they heard this story, I would be so curious to know if they knew how connected all of these were.
One thing that I always mention is like if Palestine was personified, it would be a political prisoner. And the story of the Holy Land Foundation is the story of Palestine, essentially. So why do we say political prisoners are the compass of our struggle? It's because they are giving us the perfect example of what it means to keep fighting for our liberation after everything life throws at us. They are sitting in a confined cell. People are being murdered all around them, but they are still fighting for the liberation, not only for themselves, but for everyone else. The prison where my father is at, he witnesses people getting murdered all the time. He is in his own war zone.
Yeah.
But look at the art that he's producing. Look at the poetry that he's producing. Through all of that, he is still able to bring some light into our lives. One thing we mentioned earlier, we were talking about like the funding that the prison gets. The prison system is modern day slavery. My father is only getting paid a couple cents an hour to clean up the blood of those inmates who are being murdered. A 66-year-old man wakes up at 5 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Anytime a fight breaks out, they will call him to go clean up the spilled blood. A man who used to help children get food and medicine, a man who used to wear suits every single day of his life is now wearing those white paper suits and cleaning up blood. My father was against violence, and then he is here sitting in the most violent prisons. It's crazy how life works. It's crazy how the system works against us. The system doesn't work in our favor. It's not for us. It's not for the minorities of the US.
I first off want to just say I'm so sorry for everything that's happened to your family, even aside from HLF, with Sanabil, with your brother, Muhammad, Allah yarhamhim. Just really want to acknowledge that as well as everything that's happened with the Holy Land Foundation and with your father. Your family's resilience and strength truly just embodies the Palestinians' resilience. And the definition of what a Palestinian is throughout this conversation that we've been having, it's this turning a bad situation into a form of light, into a form of something that can help somebody else. And you guys have really been able to create art even under these circumstances with the book Light from Deep Under. I would really love for you to share a little bit about how that came to. Your dad has always been a poet and a writer, and you've always as well.
Yeah, so Baba, as you mentioned, he's always been a writer. that after his imprisonment, he is confined in this little cell with nothing but a pen and paper. So he would just write, 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 and he would send the writings through the prison email system to his friend based in Indiana, and she would post it on Baba's blog. Throughout the years, Baba has always had the idea to bring a book into life. So we compiled his poetry, and he did write some poetry specifically for the book. He was working closely with an editor. Her name is Jean. She's amazing. Who, by the way, they took her off of my dad's email list specifically to try to like break this book from happening. They took her off the list. So he would have to communicate through Ahmed, who is a close family friend based in Houston. He tries his best to go visit my dad weekly. Now, mind you, the prison is always on lockdown, so like we can go weeks, even months without seeing my dad or having a visit. But since Ahmed is close, he goes there and he checks if there's a visit. Sometimes they won't even tell you until you get there. So many times we'd have to wait weeks or months to even communicate with my dad. So this book, what could have taken just a few months, ended up taking 2 years because he would have to wait for Ahmed to visit, communicate through him, then Ahmed communicates with the editor.
Just making it so much more difficult.
Exactly.
That's the whole
Instead
point,
of
though.
Baba communicating straight with the editor, getting it done, no. Because even also emails take a few days to send. It's not instant. It's not like me emailing you right now and you get it right now. It will take about like 2-3 days.
Well, don't they have to like sift through what it
goes
is?
to DC.
Yeah.
They read it, they
Yeah.
analyze it, they read in between the lines, and then they let it go through.
My man is just trying to like make some bars.
I know. Exactly. But this is on purpose.
Yeah.
They want to make life harder for everyone, not just the prisoner. To make life harder on the family too. It's collective punishment.
Reminds me of Israel.
Exactly.
Like when you go back to Palestine, even as an American citizen, and you have to go through the airport, I will never stop feeling traumatized from that experience.
I was held for 9 hours.
Yeah.
When I tried to go to Palestine for my very first time was in 2016. They held me for 9 hours.
Yeah.
They do that so that you never want to visit again. Same with the prison. They do that so you never want to visit again. And so that they can break the spirits of these inmates, right?
Within writing this book, this is a layered question. So what does this book offer to you? What does it offer to your father? And what does it offer to the readers? What do you hope each one of those people carry and walk away with?
I'll start with a Baba. I think that it's important that his words are heard and read beyond those prison walls that were built to silence him. He has no communication with the outside world. Baba was a man of influence, which is why they put him in prison. He was huge in the community. All the youth would go to him with their problems. He would travel every single weekend to give lectures, to give classes, youth camps, the Friday khutbahs, the Friday sermon prayers. Like, he was doing all of that. And he was traveling all over the world. And he made such a great impact. And now he is in a prison to silence him. This book is a testament and a symbol of his resilience. And his words deserve to be heard beyond those prison walls. And I want him to know that we are here listening to him. He won't be silenced. We're not going to let them silence him.
Yeah.
Right?
I also see it as a way for him to reclaim his own narrative as
And
well.
reclaim his innocence.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like when you're in court, you're not speaking for yourself. You have lawyers to speak for you. My dad would have done things differently had he had been able to stand up and speak for himself. But you're not allowed to do that in court. It's always been someone else speaking for you, trying to defend you. This is Baba's words coming straight from him, speaking on everything he's ever done, every feeling he's ever felt. And it's giving you that roller coaster of emotions that he goes through during imprisonment. The happy times, the sad times, him remembering Sanabel, him celebrating the birth of his grandson while not being able to hold him because he's thousands of miles away. You're going to read all of that. What I hope like the audience or the readers feel, I want them to feel the roller coaster of emotions. I think everyone should know what it feels like to be a political prisoner, because when we say no one is free till we're all free, None of us are free because they are currently imprisoned. My father being imprisoned is imprisoning the whole community. After my father was imprisoned, it broke our community. They take one person in to break everyone else. It's also giving you a sense of hope. These are words coming from a prisoner who is so hopeful, has such high spirits and has such a strong faith. And we will also gain strength from that, right? This man is in prison. He has the right to complain about everything, yet he does not complain one bit. And this book will give us strength by reading those words of encouragement, those words of motivation from someone who is in prison. And then to answer your question, me personally, it gives me strength. Me being able to show everyone, these are the words from my father, here you go. He calls me his voice. And that is literally my purpose in life right now. I visited my dad for the first time. I had a one-on-one session with him last year. I really got to just dig deep into everything. It was kind of like an outer body experience. He told me about the reason why I was even named Nida. I was born day after the Ibrahimi Mosque my name was supposed to be Maryam, but he called me Nida based off of an emergency statement or article that he published called El Nida, which is basically the call to action or like the cry for help. He called me El Nida, the call to action. I was born into the struggle. When he was imprisoned, I went straight to answer that call to action. And it's mind blowing knowing that.
That gave me chills.
It's like he like set me up
Yeah.
to like prepare me what was to come. The moment I was born, he gave me like my calling, and my calling is to it is the answer to the call to action, right?
Yeah.
It's mind blowing. So when I look at myself right now, you know, we talked about everything that I wanted to be and everything that like I didn't become, and I didn't go to art school. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Like I even wanted to be an art professor at one point. And I still, maybe one day I'll go back and do that once everything calms down. But right now, my calling is to do this.
You are firmly
Extend-
exactly where you are supposed to be right now.
This is what I'm supposed
Yeah.
to do. And I hate like always saying I. This is my life. And I can't even believe that this is my life sometimes. I'm just a girl, you know? Like I'm just like, I really want to just sit on my couch, drink my coffee, watch a movie, but no, like I can't even do that. Like I don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
But like I can't imagine doing anything else. I just want to get this book out there. I want people to know my father for who he really is, not for what the media paints him to be.
SubhanAllah, we become our names.
Yes.
And so it's crazy to me that your dad had that shift in his heart because of current events, which I also think that's just such a Palestinian thing. We are just constantly having to shift to the new trauma that we are like thrown at.
Yes.
So he shifted literally what your name is supposed to be because of things that are happening in Palestine. And then look at that gift that he gave you, that intuition that he had. So, subhanAllah, I think you are exactly where you are meant to be. And the common thread and theme that we've been talking about has been strength and resilience. And when I think of all those things, I really think of the women in our life. I think about your mom and your sisters and your grandmother. We get so much of who we are from our parents, but like our parents are our parents because of the fact that our Sitis and Sitis raised them to be these type of ways. And so I would love for you to share a little bit about your Sitis.
Yeah. So I'll start with my dad's mom. She's also a child of diaspora. I mean, her family fled the war from Italy to Brazil. She's actually Italian, born Catholic, and born and raised in Brazil. Baba was also born and raised in Brazil till he was like 7 years old. She ended up converting way after she had all her kids, but she lives in Dallas now. She lives with my uncle. She is such a funny and amazing person. I don't know how she still has such a sense of humor. I guess that's where Baba gets it from. You know, she has a beautiful sense of humor even after everything that she's been through. You know, she didn't have an easy life either. It's like we forget that our grandparents have more than one child, more than just our parents. And every single child of hers has their own story, has their own struggles. As Palestinian, like we never really have a true home, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are, after the Nakba, we went from one place to another, to another, to another. One of my uncles lived from like between Sudan, Lebanon, and Syria. Obviously, they had to leave Syria. Then they went to like Qatar, Turkey, so like everywhere. Siti, after Sidi passed, she's always been living between like each son, just traveling from like country to country. She's in the US for the most part.
Mm.
She lived with us, her and Sidi, you know, growing up in our household, like Portuguese was always being spoken. My Portuguese is horrible right now. Growing up, Sidi and Siti would all speak to each other in Portuguese. Mom and Baba speak to each other in Arabic. My sisters and I speak to each other in English. So I did grow up in a very like diverse household. And I think because of the way Baba grew up and because of who his mother is, it painted him into being the person that he is, you know, open-minded, loving everyone for who they are, regardless of race, culture, religion, you know. And he also traveled the world, and it opened his eyes to many different things. So yeah, Siti, her name is Saira Guerzoni. But my father, his firstborn daughter, he named her Zuhaira. So he
Oh.
got her name and he Arabified it from Zaira to Zuhaira. And
Cute.
it's such a beautiful name. He very much put so much thought into each of our names. My younger sister, her name is Shuruk, 24 years old, and she was the last one to be born. She was born in January of 2001. The HLF shut down in December 2000. She literally was like the Shuruk in my parents' life, you know, the sunrise, the light into my parents' life. And Shuruk was so close to my grandma growing up. She's probably better at Portuguese than me. So, you know, Siti has touched so much and has put so much influence in her life.
Yeah. What traditions has she passed on to you?
So we love to do like a family lunch every Sunday. A very Italian thing was like after church, they would go home and make pasta from scratch. My family, we want to implement at least gathering every Sunday.
Yeah.
And that brings me to talk about Siti Aisha, my mom's mom. SubhanAllah, how the cultures are actually very similar. Every Sunday, she has to have Sunday breakfast. We try as much as we can to meet on Sundays when everyone is off and have a lunch or dinner, something. And I think that's a beautiful tradition from both sides.
Yeah.
Like,
These were always really good at linking people together,
Yes.
especially around food. Food was a way to connect.
But it's a language in itself. It's a universal language. No matter where you come from, I think we all have a very similar tradition to where we at least try to meet once a week as a family. Our grandmothers are the glue of the families. And it makes me so sad, like to think like one day they're gonna pass away, and it's like if we don't keep those traditions alive, like we're gonna lose like the Torah, right? We're gonna
100%.
lose the culture and
The heart and soul
of our country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you pass that on to your son?
That's a good question. I mean, I keep him close to my mom. I like to take him to visit my mom.
Siti.
Yeah, his Siti. He loves to be in the kitchen with her. Again, food.
Yeah.
This kid loves to cook. Okay, he's a 5-year-old boy.
Breaking those stereotypes.
Breaking the stereotype. He loves to be in the kitchen with us. And it actually drives my mom crazy. He loves to just like be involved and do things with us. Both like the Italian and Palestinian culture, even Brazilian culture, we love to use our hands, right? Our culture it's like a handmade culture. Everything we make, the tatriz is with our hands. The bread that we make is with our hands. The pasta that you make is with your hands.
Yeah.
You know, there's no love like your grandmother's touch, right? And I'm so blessed that he's able to live around his grandmother and his great grandmother, my Brazilian grandma, is with us.
That's so beautiful that he gets to have her in your life as well.
Alhamdulillah. He's only met my Palestinian grandmother once, and I really want to take him again to visit her. She makes the best bread alive. Every Sunday, subhanAllah, even with all like the pain that she goes through, she would wake up 4 a.m. to make her bread. Ghasbin an everyone.
I swear, I used to tell my grandmother all the time, I'm like, Siti, I think you have more energy than I do. Like, I don't know how they just have like this like engine like in them.
It's so funny. Like one hilarious story with Siti is we were visiting a few years ago, And my cousin and my sister, we all slept over at my grandma's house. It's this little house that they've been living in since the 60s. She refuses to leave.
That sounds
Very
yep.
Palestinian. She refuses to leave, even though she can get a better
She's
house.
Like, I've been kicked out of my home one too many times. I'm staying here.
So we all slept over at Siti's because we had planned to wake up in the morning and make bread with her for the family gathering. She's speaking with the cha. And she's like, غصب عنكن, y'all are gonna get up ساعة معايا. No, ساعة 5. She was like lecturing us the night before. Yep, it shouldn't تكونوا like this early. And we're like, okay, we went to sleep. And then next thing you know, the next morning we wake up to the smell of bread. We wake up and we go and we see Siti تعبانة, and she's like, ugh. And we're like, Siti, you made all the bread without us? This is exactly why we slept over. Like, what happened? She's like, لا خلاص. She was basically annoyed that we were sleeping 4 o'clock in the morning. She got up earlier than the time we had discussed. She
probably just to tell you, look, you didn't get up to help me. I could do it all by myself.
4 o'clock in the morning, started making the bread when we had, I think, agreed to wake up at like 6 in the morning. So when we did wake up at 6 in the morning, everything was made.
It sounds just like a typical Siti.
Yeah, and she was mad at us.
Yeah. Why didn't you wake up 2 hours before?
And we're like, Siti, but you got up earlier than us. But it's hilarious.
Your Palestinian grandmother, when did she come to America?
I think she came to America in the 70s.
She was also from Silwad.
She's from Silwad.
Yeah.
She's actually, so Siti, her mom is from Fakouha.
Oh, okay.
Jenin.
Yeah.
So she's half Jenin, half Silwad, which I love. I'm in love with Jenin.
Yeah, my husband's from Qatar Jenin.
Amazing. I think that's where she gets her, like,
that strength, that grittiness. It's like a grit.
I'm going to do it no matter what kind of strength. So she actually came to America a few years after Sidi came. He came here to work. And so my mom and my older aunt stayed in Palestine. And they were raised by their grandparents.
Wow.
Okay, so Sidi left. Siti stayed in Palestine until my mom was like 6 or 7. She left her 2 oldest daughters in Palestine to be raised by their grandparents and left to be with Sidi to help him. Siti was here in the US in Sanford mowing lawns of Sanford, Florida to help Sidi.
Wow.
Okay, and he would be working in the flea markets. Siti would be mowing lawns.
She did it in her thobs.
Yeah, and like, she wore her mandil to the back. Actually, till this day, she wears the asba and she lifts it to the back, and that's how she's been wearing it since day one. And that's why I wore this hijab to honor her.
Yeah.
So she came here, started hustling with Sidi.
That must have been so hard.
It's hard
for your grandma and then also for your mom.
It wasn't supposed to take that long.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to take long, but guess what? Mama didn't end up meeting her mom again until she was 21. She was raised 100% by her grandmother and came to the US, to Sanford, to marry my father at 21, and that was the next time she had seen her mother.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That gave me goosebumps.
I know.
I can't even imagine what that felt like. 6 to 21. You're talking about like 15 years. Like
our
such
mothers and grandmothers had to sacrifice to give their children a better chance at life.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But it shapes your mom and your aunt.
Like, it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, 100%.
Mama and Khati Rahab are masters at tatris.
Yeah.
They are masters at baking bread. They are so amazing when it comes to maintaining the Palestinian identity and the culture.
Even just being raised by your grandmother gives you such a different perspective on life, honestly.
Yes.
And being raised by somebody who's like that much older than you. They've had already walked through so much wisdom on their path. Whereas like your mother, who's kind of that generation above you, they're kind of still going through it. They're still going through their life.
You know what?
Like,
Had my mother not been raised by my grandmother in Palestine, she probably wouldn't have been as strong to endure everything. Like my mom lived under occupation till the age of 21. My mom would have to run away from the soldiers on her way to school. You know, they
Yeah.
would like terrorize the kids going to school.
It fortunately and unfortunately prepared her for the life that she was gonna live with
Yeah.
your father. So much of who we are can come from like the women in our lives, and whether that is like your grandmother or when you trace it back to your mom, it's how your mom raised you a certain way because she was raised by who and how did that person raise her. And to hear that she was raised from her grandmother, that just adds such a different layer onto everything. Do you find that you have their characteristic traits when you are working through something?
It's so funny because when I'm with Siti Aisha, everyone says Ana zay Aisha, Ana Aisha. Because they also, my mom is like a splitting image of my grandma.
Oh wow.
So they say like Wajdan Aisha, Nida Wajdan. Like I fit them perfectly. But then when I'm with my Brazilian grandma, they say hi exactly. My Arabic sounds just like my grandmother's Arabic.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Her Arabic is
What
so
are they
funny because
trying
it's
to
like
say?
mixed with Portuguese. Like she's amazingly fluent at Arabic, by the
Wow.
way. Like
Yeah.
so fluent. She just has like this tiny accent. Like, you know, when you say, oh, عارفة, she goes, أنا عارفة. Or like agua de mai, you know?
Oh, so she mixes the
She
two
mixes
together.
very, very little though. But like you will hear it here and there. But it's just like her Arabic is so cute and like a little broken, but still very fluent. When I'm with her, my Arabic becomes like hers.
No, that's so cute.
But when I'm with Siti, I try to speak with the cha.
Reclaiming your Falahi roots.
Yeah. So Siti Zahira, she's just in her own la la land. And I think my sisters and my mom always say that I'm like her in that sense. Like I'm in my own world. But then my resilience comes from like Siti Aisha, that like steadfastness, the stubbornness, the I'm gonna get up at 4 even though we told you 6 a.m. I'm gonna make the bread without everyone else's help. Also, my love for poetry comes from Siti. She would always be reciting sha'r to my dad. And I think that probably also shaped him too, to be a poet. And one thing she always mentions is Shukri awwali wa akhiri. He is like the purpose of my life, but he's also going to be the death of me. Like, that's probably a characteristic that I got from her, the love for poetry and the Arabic language.
Yeah, but you know what? Also, the whole she could be so deep and profound and then just kind of flip it and make so much light out of that situation.
Yes,
So like
exactly.
her being like, Shukri's my everything. I'm like, oh, like so sweet. And then, but he's gonna be the death of me.
Like,
It's just
I love
like,
you, but you drive me crazy.
yeah.
You know, that's
Like,
why like they have such an amazing bond because they both have that like just that sense of humor. And I think it's a very Palestinian thing to have a sense of humor.
but that's like an
Through all of
amazing,
this.
yeah, that's like an amazing skill to have. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, no amount of therapy that you could go through can teach you that.
I find it therapeutic to talk to other Palestinians. You know, like that in itself is therapy. So when my father talks to my grandma, when my father talks to my mom, it's therapeutic for them because they're able to share that like that dark humor that no one else will understand.
Yeah, that trauma bond.
Yeah, the trauma bond. There you go.
What was your favorite meals of your cities?
So Siti Zahira, my dad's mom, growing up, she'd make these caramelized plantains. One of my favorite desserts. And Baba, his favorite thing was like tiramisu. And pasta, of course. You know, احنا, like we grew up eating like makluba, mansaf, pasta, plantains. It was a very mixed dinner table. DNA, right? Like the Italian, Brazilian, Palestinian.
Your son is eating really good. That's what
He
that means.
is. He is. And Siti Aisha, my favorite thing from her is not a meal, but her pickles. Siti is notorious for her pickles. Anytime anyone goes to visit, whether they're related or not, she makes sure that like at least half their suitcase is filled with Ziploc bags of pickles.
مخللات.
Yes, it's like she has the zahra, the cauliflower, the carrots, the cucumbers, and it all comes from my uncle's property in Florida. They look it, you know, it's very Palestinian. They go pick the cucumbers and then she will pickle them.
That's
And
amazing.
that's my favorite till this day. If anyone goes to visit Siti, they will bring her pickles and even her bread. Like, they will bring her bread too, and
Yeah.
we will freeze it for as long as we can.
It's such a labor of love. That's the essence of a Palestinian
Yeah.
grandmother is showing love through these harder tasks, whether it's like them making a thobe for you, whether it's them making
Yes,
food for
yeah,
you.
and one thing Siti is also really famous for, I feel like I have a Southern grandma, her fried chicken.
No
It's
way.
yes, I mean, she's been in the US for how many years? Her fried chicken, people all over Stanford, like, will go visit her just for her fried chicken and potato salad. It's funny how my Palestinian grandma, it's not even a Palestinian meal. It's her fried chicken,
Yeah.
her pickles, and her bread. Like, it's a very simple thing, and I love it, especially because I'm Southern and Palestinian, so
Yeah.
it's like a perfect.
It's just another way for you to connect with your
Yeah,
grandmother.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all about your grandmothers and the women in your life. Being surrounded by just as strong of women in your life can kind of carry you through any hardships that you might face. Where do you draw your strength from?
From everyone. I get my strength from everyone for sure, and especially my father. You know, he says he gets his strength from us, and I think it goes both ways. The support that I get from my friends, just reading everyone's messages of encouragement, and it means the whole world to me because it knows that I'm not alone, and it shows me that the work that I'm doing is actually making an impact after feeling like for so long I haven't been heard. It almost felt like I was screaming into this void of darkness for so long. And now, alhamdulillah, like I'm seeing the light from deep under, literally the
Mhm.
name of my dad's book. But going back to my dad, I think just seeing how strong he is in those conditions forces me to be strong.
Yeah.
Right? Because as I mentioned earlier, I have nothing to complain about. I actually do. I have the right to complain about everything in my life, but I don't because I have the privilege to be doing everything that I'm doing now, right? And it's my duty, and that by itself gives me strength. Just knowing that I'm able to go out and speak for my dad. Just
Yeah.
knowing I'm able to go out and march for the people who can't be marching. Just knowing I am able to write for the people who can't be writing, that gives me strength. Alhamdulillah. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know how I am maintaining that strength, but I am, and I'm grateful, and I hope I can continue. But like I can only be too strong for too long. Like there
Mhm.
are days where I just feel mentally exhausted, especially with being a single parent. Like it's tough, it's heavy, and I do have to have at least a day to regroup and kind of just like process. And I feel like throughout all these years, we mentioned earlier, I'm like just going, 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 going. I never really processed anything. So the last like 2 years, I've been doing my best at like trying to take time to focus on myself and myself only. I think it might drive my family crazy a little bit because I tell them, out of families, we don't have boundaries. Like I tell
Oh,
them,
yeah.
yo, guys, I'm sorry. Like I need this day for myself. I'm sorry. Like I can't. And you have to be able to make those boundaries with other people, even if it is your family, for your own sanity. We really have to sometimes put ourselves and our needs first, at least for one day,
Mhm.
especially when you're giving your all to everyone else. And again, this isn't something that I was doing before. It's only something that I picked up the last 2 years after my divorce. I learned that I really need to have at least one day of self care, even if it's one day out of the month. I will try to devote that time to love myself, to be able to love everyone else.
Yeah, with you wearing so many different hats, you are an activist, and then also throw in being a single mom, which is the hardest job of them all. How do you navigate burnout?
Right, exactly. And yeah, it's everything I just mentioned. And I also learned through talking to other organizers and amazing, amazing activists, learning from them, like, yes, maybe I should also take a day to relax. And because I will ask them, like, how do you do it? And they tell you have to focus on yourself. You have to relax for a day or two because it's all so heavy. It really is. And being a single mom too, like it's a full-time job in itself. So the little moments that I find with just me, myself, and I'm going to make sure I at least lay in bed an extra hour if I can, or just sit in silence and do nothing because you need that. you get caught up in everything to where when you have these moments with yourself, you ask yourself, who am I? Who did I become? I am not the same person that I was a year ago. I am not the same person that I was 2 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm not the same person that I was yesterday. So we always have to give ourselves time to catch up with ourselves.
You keep referencing 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What was the big shift that happened there?
I think that's when my divorce was finalized. The last 2 years of my marriage, back and forth between my mom's and back home, my mom's and back to the home with my ex-husband because I tried so hard. We tried so hard to make it work for the sake of our son,
Mhm.
right? But we realized it's better for our child to see us both happy and living separately
Yeah.
rather than living together.
I'm sure
And
there's a lot of Arab or Muslim kids who are our age, of
yeah.
our generation, who wish their parents had that same mentality when they were growing up.
I hear that a lot from my
Yeah.
friends. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, my parents had a beautiful relationship and it actually gave me like the blueprint or like the idea of what a marriage should look like. But I will hear it a lot from my friends saying they wish their parents had split up earlier rather than them growing up with so much trauma and
Mhm.
negative energy around them. It's sad to hear that, but when I hear that, it gives me realization. Like Baba tells me all the time, especially after my divorce, it was really hard on Baba. I had probably never seen him cry before.
Is it because he couldn't be there for you?
He told me that, like, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
like, Baba, what are you sorry for? He goes, I feel like I haven't been a good, I wasn't there for you. I feel like I haven't been a good father. And had I been out, none of this would have happened to you. And I'm like, Baba, don't say that. You've done more for me than the friends we were just talking about. You've
Mhm.
done more for me than some of the dads who live with their own kids.
Mhm.
It amazes me at how amazing of a father he is behind bars, right? And how much energy he puts into maintaining our relationship, calling anytime he gets, dedicating all these writings and poetry to his kids, the love he has for his wife. Oh my God, the love he has for my mom.
People don't
Maybe
talk
that's
about.
why
No,
I'm having a hard time. Maybe that's why, like, because I see my parents' relationship and it's like, that's what I want.
that's your standard, and
That's
you
what I want.
shouldn't, like, settle on your standards. People don't talk about that enough of Palestinian love. Us
Our
Palestinians.
love is resisted. You know,
Yes.
like my dad says, like, غصب عنهم, I'm gonna love my wife. I'm gonna show them when they put one in prison, they are imprisoning all of us and they want that relationship to break. But my parents' relationship only got stronger after imprisonment. And he once recently told me on the phone, he's like, you know what? I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have your mother in my life. She is the one keeping him sane. So it's beautiful and I'm so happy and blessed that I have them as role models.
Yeah.
We forget that love is a part of our culture. It is a part of our resilience, even in our music, right? When you listen the tarwida, okay?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, every time I listen to it, I'm in tears because it hits me and I imagine myself or my mother back in pre-occupation days. I take myself back in time. Had my father been in prison, I would be singing to him or like reading poetry to him to express my love to him, to let him know that his freedom is coming. My mother would have been doing the same thing, and it's like bringing it back into modern times. My father's book is like the modern day Tarwida. There's so many what do
Hidden
you
messages
hidden
even in it.
messages for you to decipher on your own. He wants it translated in Arabic and Portuguese, but he has to write in English because you are not allowed to speak any other language or write in any other language in
Wow.
this prison. You are not even allowed to write like assalamu alaikum or anything like that in these letters. Everything
Mhm.
has to be in English. But so yeah, I implement everything from our culture into modern day and there's just so much beauty and resilience in the love for our family and our spouse and everything. We need to maintain that again because it is a part of our culture. Like
Yeah.
we have to be strong for each other. We have to love each other. One of Baba's favorite sayings, aside from Sabr Jameen, is حبوا بعض. That's Baba's favorite thing. Every time before we get off the phone, okay, yalla guys, حبوا بعض. He hangs up. Love each other. That is the number one thing as Palestinians that we need to do is love each other.
Yeah, as Palestinians, as human beings, you remind us that even in the darkest places, there's still light to be shown and had. And even with everything that you've gone through, you still remain so positive, mashallah. Where can everyone follow along with your journey, and how can we support your work and your dad's work?
So you can follow me on Instagram. It's like a visual. Uh, I am on Instagram at Livin' La Nida Loca. Get it? Like Livin' La Vida Loca.
Yeah.
It is a very crazy life, but Livin' La Nida Loca. And then Free the HLF5. We'll post updates here and there.
My last question, we kind of always like to root us back to our Sitis. So if your Siti was here with us today, you could do both of them, one of them, if, drinking their chai or their coffee with us and kind of hanging out, what would they be most proud of?
Their grandchildren. I think they would be proud of the generations that came after them, especially to see that we're still fighting for our land. It makes them so proud because there's nothing more that they want than to go back home. I think that's what they'd be the most proud of.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Having you as a grandchild, having your siblings continue on their legacies, mashallah, in such a beautiful way. I'm sure they're very proud of you. Your resilience is not just personal, it really is a collective strength and power for us as Palestinians and as human beings. I usually end with that Siti question, but I thought it would be really neat if you send us off with a reading from Light from Deep Under.
Yeah.
If there's an excerpt that you feel really speaks to you, or
There are so many. I think the one that I will maybe read right now is called Asking for Forgiveness. And this one I've read it a couple times online, or like at events because it is literally my favorite, especially as a single mother. It's like I want my child to be proud of me. I mentioned off camera, like my son is Khalili ala Ghazawi ala Sinwadi ala Janini, so that resilience is in his blood, and I want him to know just who he is and where he came from. He's picking it up on his own too. Like it's not just me instilling it. I think it's also like just him being observant to everything going on. He knows very much who his grandfather is. He knows very much what Palestine is, why we're boycotting. I want to be the best version of myself for my son, right? I do wish life had been easier for me so that I can give him an easier life, right? Which is why I can kind of resonate with my father when he wrote this. He dedicated it to me and my younger sister Shuruk because we were so young when everything happened. And he's asking us for forgiveness when there's nothing to nothing to forgive him for. He's done everything he can. I want to be half of the parent that he is and my mother is. So he starts by saying, "Forgive me, my child. You've bloomed far and fast, farther than I could touch, faster than I can run, ran 5,840 days around the sun, but not one past the gate that kept you out and kept me in. Forgive me for every time your arms branched into the air, anxious, delicate, and my big hug never perched. For every time you looked out the window, your chin small on the couch ridge, and I didn't wave, my smile glowing in your hazel eyes. For every time you reminisced how we played hide and seek, the fun you wished my takers had played it fair. God, how sad. Forgive me, Habibi, it's been a drag, and rust on razor wire has stories to tell, and the wrinkles in my hand and your bridge to womanhood. Suffering is not defeat, my child. That's my favorite line. And those are the words that I live by. Suffering is not defeat, my child. We won. God is great. You're strong. I'm strong. You let life spin and bloom. Far and fast, no regrets.
That's so beautiful. And I could tell why it's your favorite. Even in everything that your father is going through, he still is thinking about others and he's still thinking about you guys. As a parent yourself now, you now know what those shoes feel like, of continuously feeling like you want to do best by your
And
children.
you're not doing enough, and you're not like good enough, and And it's not good to think like that. It's not good to think that you are not good enough. In fact, tell yourself you are doing amazing.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
being
having
here
me.
and for really opening up your heart and letting us in. When I record with people, it's like usually not in person. And so I usually walk away with like such a heavy heart, not in a bad way, in just like an emotional way. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah. I know
like,
exactly
yeah.
what you're
And I'm so glad that you're here, that I could give you a hug afterwards.
Oh,
Thank you so much for being
of
open and vulnerable and
course.
sharing your strength and your hope as well that you have.
Habibti, thank
Um,
you.
I appreciate your time.
Everyone should know, like, it literally took 2 years
No, it's
to
been a
get
year.
this
It's
a
been a
year.
year.
I'm exaggerating, but alhamdulillah, I was here and I'm like, "Hey, let's do it on Saturday." Habibti,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Ah,
much.
thank
Aw.
you. Nidat's story shows us that everyone's freedom is interconnected and that even in the darkest times, hope can still rise. If her words moved you, take a moment to act. Share this episode, learn more about the Holy Land Foundation case, buy her father's book, Light from Deep Under, and carry these stories into your own conversations. I've included how to connect with Nidat, a link to buy Light from Deep Under, and additional resources in the episode description below. To stay close to the stories we share, follow us on Instagram at Sitis.stories and subscribe to the Olive Press newsletter at sittistories.com for more reflections, recipes, and behind-the-scenes moments of each episode. This is Siti Stories, where we honor the ones who came before us and carry their voices forward. Until next time, ma'a salama.